Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free, Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
This is Stress-Free Living. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ray Samich, and I'd like to introduce all of you to my longtime radio colleague, co-host of this program, and my spiritual brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you today?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. And want to welcome all of our viewers and listeners wherever you may be, whether this is live, whether you're catching this on our YouTube channel, which is Stress-Free Living Radio, or whether you are one of our Zoom guests. And we have a few new people here today joining us, and we especially are grateful to them for taking the time to join us and be a part of our show. Ratanjit, the title today of the show is about wealth. Why are there only a few wealthy people when there's billions of people across the world and hundreds of millions across the United States, where we have most of our guests and listeners and visitors? There's only a few people that are wealthy. Why is that? Are they special people? Do they have a destiny of success? Is it because they work harder than everybody else? Are they smarter than everybody else? Those are the questions going through my head. But before we start, I do want to mention that there's a lot of different types of wealth. And you can be wealthy with family and love and relationships and fulfillment and a state of gratefulness, all those different kind of things that can describe wealth. And I want to make sure today that although those are extremely legitimate, we're talking today about financial wealth. The purpose of this show the intent of this show is to try to say, how do we become financially wealthy if we want to be, or why can't we be even if we want to be? And then I also wanted to make one other distinction, and that is that I think in more developed countries, there's more opportunities where this show is relevant. Because anybody, for example, in the United States, I believe, has the ability to do things differently and take advantage of the opportunities that are there. There are still some places around the world where you're kind of locked in, whether it's because of the environment that you live in, the political environment, in the if you will, the more primitive areas of the world that have not been developed. Or maybe it's because of the politics like in your country, with India, the caste system, where it's very difficult to escalate. So I want to distinguish this thought too, and not in any way talk down to those people that it really is a different type of challenge to escalate your life. So with those couple distinctions, to be fair, what do you think? Why are the great majority, 99.9% people, either poor or just getting by, just making enough, they're surviving, but they don't really have wealth?
What you said is so right, because of the opportunities and better development infrastructure. U.S. is a place where, how many millionaires there are in this country? Can you guess?
No.
50 million millionaires.
Wow. No, I had no idea. Really?
Yeah.
There's only 300 million people.
Right.
And I don't know how many adults are in that group. So that's really a staggering percentage.
So having that fact, opportunities are better here and infrastructure is better here. So opportunities invite people to make better wealth. Now, there is another story which I'm going to share. In 1947, India was freed from British Empire. And that year, India was divided into two countries, India and Pakistan. So it was a very bloody separation. Lot of people were killed and displaced. A lot of people left. Indians, basically, who were not Muslims in Pakistan, they were forced to leave Pakistan area and without anything. Now, here in 47, India was really a third world country. Very few opportunities. Now, in spite of that, people who migrated into India from Pakistan without anything, just the clothes on their body, they are, after 10 years or 15 years, they were much better off than the people who lived in India. Their wealth was higher. The same thing is true in this country. When people come to this country, I came in 1968. At that point, India did not have enough exchange currency. So they could only give me $8 exchange. So I landed in this country with $8 in my pocket. So I did not have anybody I knew. I did not have any friends or any relatives or anybody. So suddenly, in these situations, your intuitive awareness becomes alive. You begin to notice things which otherwise you would not notice. So you see opportunity, which all, it's like when you live in this country, when you go to work, you hardly notice the name of the street which you pass every day. So your observation becomes very limited. When you go to a strange place, your awareness becomes very active. So whenever anybody who is going into new opportunity, new conditions, and their own survival becomes very vital, they cannot afford to fail. The failure is not an option. So obviously, you get connected to the power within you, which has all the amazing forces, intelligence, everything, and it directs you. Your instinct becomes very alive. And as a consequence, generally, if you see the average income in the immigrants in this country, they are higher than people who are born here. Not that they are better, not they are more intelligent, not they have better resources, but they were made to become more aware, more alive, or more noticing the things around them. And as a consequence, they were able to explore new opportunities, right?
So you mentioned many of the immigrants, and I think one of the things that stands out, and we all come across them, are that many of them are very hardworking people. And it's a problem in America right now that a lot of Americans don't want to work. And if they do want to work, they don't want to work hard. And I know I'm being very generalized, and that's not always the case. But I do know a lot of people who own businesses, large businesses, things like vineyards. In Northeast Ohio, we still have a lot of nursery and vineyards here, and they cannot get American people to work. They just don't want to work that hard. And so they are so reliant on, in this case, most of the cases, it's people coming in from Central America, from Puerto Rico, and they come in, they find out that they can make a lot of money. They got to work hard, but they can make a lot of money. They call their friends and their family back home, and they come over. And these people are doing extremely well financially, but they're working very hard. You know, most of the convenience stores, many of the businesses that we go to are operated by people that are immigrants that are working very, very hard. Is that alone enough? I mean, we think about working hard, we think about working smart. You introduced the idea of tapping into our inner resources. I mean, are all of those a part of it? Or can you just get by with working hard? I mean, is that enough? If you're willing to go the extra mile, work those extra hours, are you more likely to be successful just from that alone?
You know, what happens is, even people who are born in this country, who are Americans, many times they, in their job, they lose their job, they lose their, and suddenly they have to find alternative jobs. And many times they cannot find another job. And there are 3-4 options. Either they get depressed, they become homeless, they end up, or they become immigrant in their own country. And that mindset, once that requires, no, I have to survive. I have to find a way. They begin to notice things. And many of them venture into completely unknown territories. So normally people say, well, gosh, I don't have any experience. So in my case, when I came to this country, my family did not have business experience. They were all engineers working for the government. And I have zero experience of business. Yet I started a business and I became successful and sold it to Dow Chemical Company. And basically, you reinvent yourself continuously. All the challenges which happened to me, if anybody is interested in those, and I have written a book on that, and they are more than I can, if they send me email, I can send you a copy of that. But it is all continuously exploring, which are completely unknown territory. And there are 2 ways. Initially, when I started my business, Ray, I started with the mindset of making money. And I failed. In 1980, when I changed my mindset at that point, having some awareness of myself, who I am, I changed myself in a element who adds value, who serves. I became very successful. So the secret of success is not hard work, but the intent behind the hard work. If the intent behind the hard work is making money, yeah, some people will make money, opportunity was there, but they would not totally have contentment. They would not keep their family together. They will not have the other elements which are making them happy. Once their intent is to serve, serve your customers, serve your nation, serve your employees, serve whoever comes across them, they become immensely successful.
We all know people, and maybe some of us that are listening right now are in this category. We do work hard. We're willing to work hard. But as we work harder and we change our lifestyle accordingly, we have to continue to work hard, if not harder, to maintain that lifestyle. And then we keep moving up that ladder, so-called, but we don't really see the benefits of moving up the ladder because we are still just taking incremental steps. Maybe it is because we're missing those other aspects that can't take us really over the top. Because what's really frustrating, and at my age, I know a lot of my friends who are approaching retirement or have retired, and they look back on 40 years of hard work, and they're okay. They're not going hungry, but they have never attained the wealth. They've never attained the point where let's just go someplace and travel the world. Let's just, take all my grandchildren on a big vacation and not worry about how much it's going to cost. They've never attained that type of a level of wealth, and yet they've worked very hard. They've given it their all for a long period of time. That's what I'm really wanted to focus on today, because and it's unfortunate, that you find that out at 60 or 65 or 70. Maybe there's some people listening today that we can introduce this to, where they still have a chance to change the navigation. And in particular, I want to talk about personality types. When we come back from our first break, I want to talk about is this more prone to some people to have that creative instinct or that immigrant mentality, if you will, and we use that in a very courteous and considerate way. We are not in any way being negative with that term. Can everybody have that immigrant mentality? Can everybody tap into the resources and be more aware, or is that a special gift unto itself? That'll be the question when we come back. This is Stress-Free Living. We're so glad you're with us. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we have a 90-second break here on our commercial. If we've generated any thoughts or questions that you'd like to share with us quickly, you're welcome to do that. If not, you're not obligated by any stretch.
I had a thought.
Yes.
So when talking about opportunities coming to America and all that, I also feel that American culture and society, especially in today's day and age, is trying to more or less suppress and dumb down everybody so that we don't open our eyes and see opportunities everywhere.
We'll bring that up, Grant. Thank you. And we've talked about a lot of that over the years too, over the show. So I think you're right on, unfortunately. Anybody else have a quick thought that you'd like to have me mention? Dr. Jack G, you're always good for a thought. Anything? Or Dr. Marsh? Okay. No obligation.
I think what
Kim?
comes up is trust. Like being all in and being of service is a beautiful thing. And I personally have struggled with like providing that to people that exploited me. So there's trust there. It's not like a lack of desire to serve, but it's also like caution.
Amen.
You're so right.
All right, good. I will bring that up as well. All right, I believe we're coming to the last. Hang on, Dr. Marsh. Maybe we got time for you or not. We do. Go ahead.
I had the advantage of reading his book, and it's about in some positions by providing value for others, and that's your focus. the wealth will come. Not in every position, obviously. If you're working at CVS in the counter, that's different. But in places of leadership, if that focus remains on helping others, I think that wealth will come. Not always, but I think in certain positions it will. But really,
All right, we are back on Stress Free Living. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Ray Samich with you, along with Ratanjit and Ray, discussing wealth. Why are some people wealthy? We're talking financially, by the way. Why are some people wealthy and most of us are not? Most of us are just kind of working on that hamster wheel, if you will, getting ahead a little bit, falling behind a little bit, but never really attaining what many of us want. Now, admittedly, there's some of us, Ratanjit, that are not looking for this. There's some people that are very happy with just, maybe they pay a lot more attention to evenings and weekends and vacations, and they look at their income and their work as just a means of getting by so they can enjoy themselves. We're not judging on that. I mean, I happen to know a lot of people in that category, and they're very happy and content. Maybe in some ways they're even happier, right? I mean, maybe sometimes without having that ultimate goal of really, being wealthy, being successful. Do they have it figured out, and the rest of us are wrong? What do you think on that? Since a little sidebar thought there.
So many ways to handle this. One thing I want to mention, because one of our listeners in our break mentioned about trust. There are several reasons for a business failure. Generally, they are cited as financial hurdles. People don't get finance, bank don't give you money. Inadequate management also is a failure. Inefficient business planning, if you don't know how to plan business, how to anticipate, and basically marketing, you are not able to do the marketing. Actually, these are not the reasons. They are effect of more significant fundamental reality that we do not either understand or confront. The main reason of a business failure is you are not able to create the trust in your product, in your services, in yourself. People, the loyalty is not increased by giving them more money. Loyalty is basically earned by creating a trust between you and your people who are working with you. Trust between you and your customer. Trust between you and everything which is happening, either your suppliers, your all these. So basically, in today's world, we buy trust through marketing gimmicks, through advertising, many of them border on the falsehood. We pay people to get endorsements. We have some case studies, and we create trust by warranting and putting some fine words which is bypasses the warranty. Until you don't leave the fine letters, the warranty doesn't mean much. And false claims and all these things basically, and we end up bribing people, we end up buying people. So this is how we buy trust. So sooner or later, this building made out of cards would fall. The true trust, if you are trustworthy, it is conveyed through you, through way you talk, through your eye contact, through your basic, we talked about the communication is basically either the word we use or the body language or the tone. And now the science tells us the word we use only contributes 7% towards the communication. 39% is the body language. The rest of it is your tone of your language. So until your tone and your body language falls in place, which never lies, you cannot earn the trust. And if you don't have trust in any business which you offer, it will not eventually succeed. So trust is very important, whether you have a personal relationship or you have friendship or you are a stranger in a strange country. So until you create trust, honesty, and all that happens, there is another thing which once we, before we go on this new idea, I wanted some comment from you. Right?
Oh my gosh. So many thoughts, so many notes I have down here to talk about. The trust angle, to go with that a little bit more. I do agree that if we're ever trying to sell anything, we're selling ourselves first. I mean, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's in a business environment, whether it's around friends and family, if people don't think that I'm trustworthy in my words, in my presentation, they're never going to buy into what I'm saying and what I'm selling ultimately, whether it's an opinion or whether it's a product or a service. They're not going to see that. So, and we have done shows on being trustworthy and building up that trust with people and loyalty. But I can't, disagree with you more. I think we're at a peak on that, though. I think that there's so much bad information in the world right now. There's so much that we are reading and seeing on the internet that people are saying is true that isn't. There's so much, there's so many efforts, there's so many millions and maybe trillions of dollars that are being put into misinformation so that people don't know what the truth is about certain topics and everything. So we are in a position where we are least likely to trust than I think we ever have been before. We're skeptical now, I think, about everything. And this is creating, I think, part of the violence, if you will, in our society, part of our antagonistic attitude about everything, because it used to be, innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. And even if I'm in a relationship with somebody, I'm going to trust you until you prove to me that you're not trustworthy. I think that has totally changed. I think we now approach any new relationship and say, I don't think I trust you. Maybe we don't say that out loud, but we say that in our head. I don't trust you until you prove to me that you're worthy of my trust. And that in itself is kind of a sad situation. Maybe I'm being very negative on this, but I just think that we're at that point in life. There's just so much bad information out there. Have you seen that? You've been around Earth a little longer than I, and you've been in, all kinds of situations politically and business-wise. Have you seen that deteriorating in terms of the level of trust, the openness to trust?
Basically, the mindset we have is we want everybody to be honest besides us. Honesty begins with us, not with others. It is very difficult to cheat a honest person, because your honesty empowers you and others, and you disempower the dishonesty present around you. So basically, we have not been honest. You know why? Because, there is a fundamental element which we have to understand. There's a universal wisdom. The universe has created us, right? We have not created the universe.
Right.
There is a universal wisdom which we have to understand and comprehend. And to see this universal wisdom, you have to see a life without a brain, because brain is contaminated with fear, greed, and ego, and you are not able to, it does not allow you to see the universal wisdom present in a person who has this brain. So if you see this vegetation, plants, you understand the universal wisdom. So now, if you plant a rose in your garden, you water it, eventually one day it blossoms. A beautiful rose buds appears. Now, this is the best this rose bush is designed to do. So now, this rose does not discriminate whether a criminal goes by or a priest goes by. It has the same beauty as the same fragrance. It does not differentiate whether this is used for a funeral or a wedding. It basically gives out the beauty and fragrance in its full capacity. If you see the fruit tree, apple tree, it always produces apple, but it never, have you ever seen an apple tree eats its own apple? It's giving. So the universal wisdom is designed to create unique successes in the form of a rose, in the form of a fruit. But as a human being, we have been given amazing creativity. We can produce so many things, but our success is to add value to others, to universe, to everyone, not to own ourselves. What we do is we own our successes. We want to capitalize our success. We want to protect our successes. Whereas nature has designed to create successes for everyone, not to own your own success. So that is why we are operating against ourselves. As a consequence, you become non-trustworthy because you are holding on to your success instead of distributing and making your successes must make an impact on the society. Your successes must add highest value to the society. And whereas we only create success to become rich. We only want rich means that I want to take vacation, I want to have all these goodies in the world, and that is what we call successes. People who are really successful, many times they take their greatest joy is creating something. Greatest joy is not selling them and having the money in your pocket. Greatest joy comes from constantly adding the highest value to whoever comes across around you and within you, right?
you know, what you say sounds great, and I think it rings true with us. But if we look at the examples in the world, if we look at the people who are the most successful, if we look at the Jeff Bezoses and the Bill Gates of the world, they're not giving their stuff away free. That we're paying them. We pay for every software program. We pay for every shipment that we receive, every product that we get. They don't just give it to us free. So I guess there's a disconnect when we look at who's wealthy. We don't see the wealthy people as the ones that have given their fruit freely and that have given their rose fragrance freely to the world. That isn't what made them wealthy. What made them wealthy is that they invented a product, or they invented or found a new way to distribute it, or whatever it is, where they've sold a lot of product and made a lot of money. So I understand, and I love, the universal ability that the rose is fragrant to everybody, and that is the climax of the purpose of the rose is to give freely and be beautiful. But is that realistic in our world in the 21st century, that if you're just fragrant and add value everywhere, you're going to be the next Bill Gates?
Basically, in our business, in our to operate in our society, we have created currency instead of bartering a apple with somebody who has wheat, and so it becomes very cumbersome. So we created a currency to barter.
Mm-hmm.
And to allow the currency, you provide your services and you are given a certain currency, and through that currency, you buy what you need. So this is how we have created what we call as civilization. So in that basic equation, it is businesses end up selling a product which allows its market value to dictate its price, and based on that price, and if it adds value, it sells more. So ultimately, we are adding value. So now, final equation is, even the Bill Gates of the world, after accumulating all the wealth, form a foundation to give people who don't have situations which requires money. They eventually do not take this money with them. Eventually, we have to give back the money to social causes or the causes which improves the living of our society. So there's one side, it is okay to make money. Not making money is in that real sense. Basically, the mindset is to add the highest value. The product which you manufacture must add much higher value than it's worth. That is why people would buy it. And when people would buy it, that product gets more popular, and more is sold, and more is made, and more exchange happens, and more accumulation of wealth happens. So until you figure out an equation to add the highest value through your product, or through your knowledge, or through your idea, it is not worth anything.
I went into the last break. We're going to go into our final break. I went into the last one with a question about, can anybody do it? And you've kind of led us right through that segment, right to that same question again. Is this something that anybody can do? Is this for people that are more timid, that are, they don't have the confidence, for people that don't have the education or whatever it is can all of us tap into these same resources internally, or the world's resources externally? Does everybody have that same ability? And if we don't, how can we get it? That's what we're going to come back and ask that question. Can we all be a Jeff Bezos? Is that something, or are these just the people that we hold up there and say, I wish I could be like them? Can we? Is that within all of us to be that person at that level of success? We're going to come back and ask that question and see if we can get an answer on this edition of Stress Free Living. Stay with us. All right. I apologize to we had to cut Dr. Marsh off there at the end. I apologize. And I didn't get to Grant's question, but we will, and some of the other ones as well. We'll try to put all those together. Anybody else have a quick thought or a question that they would like to ask? Welcome to Rick, by the way. Good to have you, Rick.
Thanks, Ray. Nice to see you guys.
This is the time here when anybody
Welcome.
might have a thought. Go right ahead. Okay, if you don't, we've got plenty to work with.
A thought I had is just going back to the psychology of what is defined as real will become real and its consequences. That's the Thomas theorem. And I've been thinking about that as a theme throughout. Like, do I see America as the land of opportunity or not? And what that does to what I see about opportunity in general, or lack of opportunity in general? Or do I see this opportunity in business as a way to add the highest value, and so my actions align with theirs and I get even greater creativity around that? Or is this just a basic transaction and all I want is their money, so the creativity is kind of stifled, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think I get the gist of that for sure. All right, very good, Liz. Thank you. I will build that in here. Yes, Chris. All right, and we're coming back in just a moment here. And Ratanjit, if I have time, I am going to ask you that question you didn't answer about what about the people that don't want more? Is that okay? We'll come back with that at the end. This is Stress Free Living. Ratanjit Sandhi, yours truly, Ray Sandwich with you, and our interesting cast here today on Zoom. We have many new guests here that we are excited to have joined us, and they're giving us valuable input during the program. If you also would like to be part of that, we'll be happy to send you that Zoom link so you can join us. And we, most interestingly, stay after the show and have kind of a post gathering of thoughts and ideas that we share. Ratanjit, only a few minutes left to kind of wrap all of this up. I'm going to start with a question that I asked going into this. We know that we all have different abilities. No two people are the same. We know that some of us, when you have this conversation, say, yes, I can do that instantly. I know exactly what to do. Other people are immediately saying the opposite. That's just not for me. I can't do that. I can't put myself out there. And every variation in between. Is the empowerment that you speak of, the focus to add the highest value, are those so basic that they are within every one of us, that we are able to get our life in line and do something at such a level that we can be extremely successful at it? I know it's such a simplistic question that you're just going to say yes, but prove it to me. Prove it. How can anybody do this successfully?
We have two forces working within us. This human body force and what is the desire of this human body? The human body is part in constant awareness that it is going to die. It is full of fear. It is affected by cold and warm. It has need for tomorrow. It is part in greed. And it thinks itself as separate human being. It has constant need for being superior being. So it is part in ego. So this is one side of us. The other side of us is the force which enlivens this human body. So there are two thought processes which are going on. The force which enlivens this human body has no fear. It's not afraid of dying. It has no greed. It has no ego. So it is also aware of that force which enlivening you and others. So its purpose is basically to serve that bigger force present in everyone. So a mindset of a greed pulls you in one direction, and eventually inside the force, divine force asks you, what are you doing? So that is why there are people who are very successful, who have made billions of dollars, are very famous, ends up having a depression. Many of them end up committing suicide because of this controversy happening within us. So until we realize who we really are, we are not this human body. Human body is a gift to us. We exist in this human body. It is a housing for us. It is like a car which I drive. It is taking me from one place to another. It is helping me as tools to do things. So I am really the force which enlivens this human body. So once you are thinking in that force, and develop a habit of constantly thinking in that divine force, you will be avoiding the true lasting happiness, true contentment, and the incentive to add the highest value. The incentive to add the highest value in the body mode is only ego. Oh, I am adding the highest value. Incentive, which is coming from the divine force in you, has no ego. It is your natural direction. This is why you are placed here. This is why you are created as a human being, to add the highest value. So this incentive cannot come to you until you realize who you are. And until this understanding of the divine force enlivening you is what you are, not the human body, we will base our life and we will always live in the conflict. What is good and why is this happening? Why not this happening? This is why this is all unanswered question coming through our body.
Does it make sense then that if we're operating in the body mode, which most of us, that's where we're at, that's where we come out, that's what we're taught in our schools, our parents, our families all teach us that we are who we are, and we find out very quickly what our limitations are as a human being, what our individual strengths and weaknesses are, and most of us try to overcome the weaknesses and get better in those areas. But we all know that we have a limit as a person. We all know that there's some things that we just cannot exceed a certain level of performance at. And so one of our Zoom guests here talked about, if you see it, if you believe it, you can do it. and that's been proven that a lot of people go at a much higher level than they ever thought they could just by pursuing it and believing it. But at the same time, I think most of us have a ceiling. We look at, in our human mode, a reality that says we probably can't get to there. We probably, if we give it our all, we can get to here, but I don't know if we can get to here. And that negativity that is in our subconscious holds us back. A little bit of fear. Maybe that's what you talked about, the fear of, we know we're going to die. So maybe that same fear is in our daily life too, is that, I don't want to fail at this. So I'll take it to this point. I'll spend 100 million, but I'm not going to spend 200 million because I have a limit. I'm going to give this 3 years, but I'm not going to give it 5 years because I have a limit. If we're in the divine mode, if we're in that oneness mode, there are no limits, are there? I mean, it's like anything is available to us.
One thing is that right now, a lot of people say, I can't start a business because I don't have the money. I don't have this talent. I'm only educated so far. These are my limits. So now let's take a different picture. When you look at a CEO of a company who is a billion-dollar company, CEO, now there is under her, there is a department heads. There's a research department head who knows about doing research more than the CEO. There's a department head of finance who knows about finance than the CEO. There's a marketing head of market who knows about marketing, and so on and so forth. So all as a total calculation, CEO is the dumbest guy in that company. Why that person is a CEO? Because that person has a vision to make a product which adds value. It has demand because it adds value. And he puts that concept in front of a team. They develop that product, they market that product, but CEO doesn't do that. So either you are parked in a talent mode, I don't have the talent, I have to do this, I can only have so much money, or you become a CEO of the resources around you. So a college student coming out of college has no money, nothing, suddenly has an idea. And he presents that idea to the financial people. He gets financing, or she gets financing, and eventually hires people who have the expertise to develop that concept. He becomes very rich. You don't have to know everything. You basically are a person who is facilitating adding value, a concept which adds value. Ray?
Ratanjit, I have so many additional thoughts and questions on my page that I wanted to share and ask you about. We're going to have to continue this discussion. Maybe next week in our program, we can kind of take a part 2 of this, because I have so many thoughts. And our listeners here, our Zoom people especially, have given me so many different leads to follow. It does seem that we're out there on an island. It does seem like, there's people that are working against us to try to prevent us from getting forward. The world, maybe, that trust angle, we're being told that these are the ways you do things, and We don't understand that there is an easier way, a smarter way, a better way. And then sometimes we fight ourselves because maybe those two different paths that you talked about are fighting each other. Part of us wants to say add the highest value. Part of us wants to say, yeah, but it's about the money. And you can't do both simultaneously. It's there seems to be a conflict of sorts. So there's so many different ways that I'd like to continue with this, but unfortunately the clock says that we have to go on this show. So I just want to thank.
Money
Go
is a
ahead.
consequence of adding value.
Yeah, you've proven that, you've said that over and over again, it happened for you, but I still think that a lot of us don't necessarily think that those go hand in hand. So we need to continue the thought. And I appreciate very much the ideas and wisdom that you taught us here today and shared with us, and love, which you always do it with. Thanks to all of our Zoom guests. Thank you to all of our listeners, visitors, wherever you may be. We appreciate you being with us. We hope we added value to your life. Remember, we're all playing the same game. Have a great day. All right, we are clear. Apologize to Jacob there in the studio for taking us over time. Sorry, Jacob. Now it is the time for everybody to open up if you'd like to. Ryan had to leave. He expressed his appreciation, but everybody else, you're not obligated to, but this is the time when we can just open up our mics and talk, ask questions, give observations, whatever you'd like to do.
Ray, Steve Marsh here.
Yes.
Yeah. So you asked a question. You said something like, well, can all of us become a Bill Gates, or can all of us become, one of those big people? Well, I've used baseball a lot as an analogy. Well, not everybody's going to be a Babe Ruth or a Sandy Koufax. We can all try. And if we find that that's not we're not going to be the best, we have to find something else, just like all the other kids and baseball players who wanted to be a great hitter. So some people do have the ability because they can multitask. They have a lot of abilities. Some don't have the ability of a Babe Ruth or a Bill Gates, for that example. So I think that says why we all have to find something that adds value to others, and we'll succeed, but we all won't be a Bill Gates or a Sandy Koufax. And we have to, that's our reality, and that's okay.
And I have a thought. I would want to hear Ratanjit's question. I agree that we can't be a Babe Ruth. And for those young people that are on the call here, they may not even know who Babe Ruth is anymore. So we can't be a super slugger, a super pitcher, and all those kind of things. I agree with that. But can we all be a Bill Gates? He did some amazing things and is still doing some amazing things. But the type of things he did, I don't equate that to having tremendous athletic skills. I think, some of the things he did, I think we have the ability to do, even if we are just, quote, normal people. I don't know. Ratanjit is a Bill Gates, not to pick on him or to, idolize him in that way. But I mean, can we all do what he did?
Basically, we are all created a unique masterpiece. We have the talent which are unique to us. So we have to find through those talents, through the circumstances, what path I take to add the highest value. Would it be through music? Can I become a rock star? Or is it going to be a corporation? Is it going to be so many areas? So there is another idea that we have to continuously upgrade our skills and knowledge, and we have to become a student. This guy who started Priceline company, he started many companies, and they're all very successful. So two things what he does, he basically every day he has a promise to himself that he's going to read something new, something totally which is unrelated to knowledge and wisdom he has. So he expands his horizons. And some of these thoughts give him some ideas. And then he accumulates people around him who has expertise on that particular knowledge and ends up forming a new company, and which ends up becoming very successful. So it is not Bill Gates. Of course, he was a very good computer guy. So you don't have to be necessarily a very good computer guy to have a computer company. If you have an idea which this can add value. So it is the intent of adding the highest value, which is the root of starting any new business, any new idea, any new venture. So it has to be different for different people. So you cannot be a computer guy if you are more interested in formulating medicines. You can be a pharmaceutical person who can develop new drugs or new things. So each one of us is unique in our way of talent, our way of looking at things, way of understanding things. And but ultimately, all of us have the same purpose in life, is to find a path which allows us to add the highest value.
Very good. Who else has a question or a thought?
I got it going here, but is it going to be the same Zoom link every weekend?
It is. It is exactly the same link that you used. And 9 o'clock is when we're here. You can start coming in anytime after 8:30. We can do a little pre-show with you, and then you're welcome to stay afterwards. So exactly the same link. And we try to let you know, we will send you out a little reminder. If you see on the reminder that it's a pre-recorded show, that's a show that we are not able to do live, but for the next month or so, we should be here every week. Please join us. We'd love to have you.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us, Grant.
Yes, sir.
Who else has something to share? Nobody. Okay, that's all right. Who's behind the iPhone? I let you in, but I don't know who is there. You're just coming across. Could you identify yourself for us?
Ray, that's probably my mom.
Oh, cool. Okay, nice.
Yep. She's visiting from Montreal, so I'm in the gym. She's up at my place.
Okay, very nice. Good to have her.
Yes,
Hi,
we
Mom.
were all reading some of Ratanjit Singh's books yesterday, little pieces here and there. And so my whole family was interested. I have other family that's visiting from India. And we were discussing our recent trip to Cleveland, both at the Commercial Academy, and then a few of us were lucky to be invited to Ratanjit Singh's home, which was absolutely beautiful. And it was nice to spend a little time and have lunch with him. So we were sharing all that information. So Mom was very curious, and she joined by Zoom today.
Nice.
So
okay.
I thank you both, Ray and Ratanjit Singh.
Yeah, bring your mom and your family back to visit us.
We will.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate it. And hello, Mom. We're glad that you're with us here today. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just curious. And Joyce, if she can hear me, I think she stepped away there, but she came in just at the end of the show. Most of us know Joyce that are part of the Academy, and she missed the show, but she's here in time for the post show. So hopefully she'll be back with us next week a little earlier. Kim and Steve, some of our longtime Zoom guests here with us. If you have any thoughts, Rick, Liz, anybody else?
I always appreciate the opportunity to plug in to your great wisdom. An honor to learn, to continue to learn and grow. And Ratanjit, I often wonder, what does it take to be a CEO? What is it that's different about them? And I just so appreciate you saying it's about having a vision. And because I've often grappled with, are these people intellectually superior? Are they well connected? Are they born into, an opportunity where they have a connection, where they end up in this position? But I don't think that I was given enough credit to the weight that vision carries. And not only having the vision, but also having the courage to put it out there. Because having grown up in a distressed environment, the first person to graduate college in the family and so on, I've had to overcome being intimidated in a room of people that I thought were superior.
Yes.
So hearing what you said gives me the freedom to just like open my mouth and add value, no matter what, without being stopped by, whether I feel like I qualify to share my vision.
Yes. I've seen many CEOs make very stupid comments. They are not afraid because they basically are CEOs. What can you tell them?
Yeah.
So
That's another topic for another show, right?
There's some hidden, there's some missed opportunities. There's some people with greatness within them that have been inhibited. That you give them the freedom. When they have the freedom, you just gave me like the green light. I heard the shotgun go off and now I'm racing because I had the privilege of being trained by you.
It is impossible to be a person who knows everything. You have to always form a team.
Yes.
So basically, a CEO understands that, and a person who is the head of the department is always chasing a particular field and knowledge, and the best he can be or she can be is the head of the department. And once that person acquires a vision, he becomes a CEO.
I love it. I'm so grateful for you. And Ray, thank you.
Thank you, Kim. You're always so kind to us. But you know what? You just impressed me with some other thought, Ratanjit, is that there's good CEOs and there's bad CEOs, right? I mean, there are successful ones and there are unsuccessful CEOs. Just because you're a CEO doesn't mean you're successful, because there's a lot of CEOs and their companies tank. Maybe the difference is maybe they both have visions. Maybe they both have vision, but
one's vision is to make more money for the company and for the stockholder. Other's vision is to add the highest value to the society and the customer. So that is what distinguishes.
Well, but could there also be another difference? I agree with that. But could there also be another difference? The CEO that has an ego that says, I am a better marketing person, I am a better researcher, I am a better operations manager, but I can't do it all. So I'm going to get other people and I'm going to appoint a person in charge of each one of these things. But in my head, I still think I know it all. I still think that I am the best. So I have a figurehead, but I really micromanage everything because my ego causes me to say that I'm still better than everybody else. The real successful CEO acknowledges that and has the self-confidence to say that I'm pretty good at marketing, but I've got somebody here who's better than me, so I'm going to make them a marketing person. I'm pretty good at R&D, but I've got somebody who's really good at R&D that I'm going to put in charge of that. You have to have a certain level of humility and also a certain level of confidence that admits that I'm not the best at everything. And that's probably the CEO that's going to be successful, right?
CEO cannot be successful until he or she forms a team. You cannot form a team until you give the credit and take the blame.
There you go.
Ego will never allow you to take the blame. So you have to be ego-free, ego-less to take the blame. Oh, I made this mistake. And when you catch people doing things right, you incentivize them. Most of the CEOs catch people doing things wrong. So they disincentivize them. So that's why people are always looking for better opportunity and there's no loyalty for the company. Whereas people are basically not hungry for money as much as for their respect and for their recognition and ability to add the highest value.
So I wrote down the best CEOs are willing to take the blame and give the credit.
Yes.
That's powerful. That really is powerful. And if we all think about the CEOs that we know that are successful, that identifies them. That really does describe them.
Yes.
Excellent. Very good.
Hey, Ray,
Sandy,
I've got
open
a
up.
question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So if we are trying to focus on adding the highest value, how do we translate highest value, or let me reframe this. How do we translate our goals to highest value? So I'll give you an example. Often we catch ourselves, and it's not catch ourselves, often we're trained to set a goal, and sometimes it's a monetary goal where we say, okay, we're trying to achieve for the company or for ourselves or whatever, a $250,000 cash flow or a $10,000 cash flow, whatever it may be. In the real estate game, we talk about cash flow, and we try to create good properties that give off a decent amount of cash flow. And then we sit there and we put up on a chart and say, okay, guys, we huddle the team together. And we say, okay, look, we're going to try to achieve a $200,000 cash flow for the company or whatever that XYZ is. I kind of find that counterintuitive to setting goals that are for highest value versus a cash flow goal. So how do you change that in a company, that environment, to thinking more from a oneness and cash and a highest value goal?
See, if a person has a fever, thermometer measure the fever, right? But thermometer doesn't cure the fever. You have to take medicine, you have to take the other rest, you have to take so many other things to cure the fever. But you assess whether you have cured the fever by temperature taking by thermometer. So financial goal is a thermometer. By itself, it doesn't achieve anything. And to achieve that goal is the value adding, highest value adding. But you measure that by the thermometer of cash flow. Does it make sense?
It's your company then, because you had, you were producing, you had a factory, so you were producing materials, you were aware of selling prices, you were aware of profit margins and expenses. I mean, so you had to apply this. So what Sandy just talked about, how did you measure your success on your P&L statement? When was your goal, if we add value, everything else will fall in place and it'll all be fine? Or did you actually say, no, we need to have more efficiency when we're manufacturing product, we need to sell at a higher price? How did that balance?
You have to have money to pay the payroll and all the expenses. So money is important, but money doesn't come if the product is not bought by customers, right?
Right.
Customer have to like the product. Your product has to have higher value than your competition to be able to sell the product. The end result is, yes, you will make more money. But if you focus on making more money, and not focus on improving the reason to make more money, which is to add the highest value, you will fail. So now it is a balance between the two. So again, the thermometer is the money you make. You had to measure whether your fever is coming down or no, whether the medicine you are taking is effective or no, or the food you are intaking is giving you strength or no. So adding the highest value is the food you intake and the medicine you take, and is measured by the cash flow and the money the company is making. So
did you ever set, or let's just say if you were the CEO and you have others below you that are part of your team, you have the research person in charge of that, and you have others, so you might have head of marketing, head of finance. Did anybody ever set any financial goals in your company to achieve, or there were no financial goals? I mean, outside of covering your expenses.
In our company, there were no titles. There were no CEOs. In other words, the reverse of that is everyone working there was a CEO. Everyone was cross-trained. They were trained in finance, they were trained in manufacturing, they were trained in research. Typically, in a company, when you have a very high intensity research project, for example, so it is given to R&D division. They have only 10 people or 20 people or whatever the number of people they are. So they can only work so much. When the high intensity product comes, were able to shift our entire team into R&D. Same thing with the marketing. When we are marketing, we would take the input of every member in our team, not decided by marketing people. So that thinking of one having marketing person, or that concept is erroneous, because that does not allow others to grow in different fields. You cannot make a marketing decision in the vacuum of knowing the research output or the financial output, or all these people have to make a contribution to make a solid decision on marketing.
Did you use thermometers? Did you use thermometers on a daily basis in your business, or a monthly basis to see where you're at? Or did you
constantly?
So constantly. Okay. Okay. So you're an advocate of goal setting and monitoring and those kind of things. It's just the way you get there is different.
Yeah. They're basically allowing you, whether you're growing, whether you're making the right decision, or whether everything is. So how do you measure it? Measuring is done by the ultimate finances.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
I guess the mindset that I think of, going to Sandy's point, because I'm also in real estate, is we buy properties that are vacant or have vacancy. And so filling that vacant, space in a shopping center with the right tenant for the community. So we bought there was a vape smoke shop, and then we filled it with a pizza shop that was new to the community. And that pizza shop is now giving free pizza to the police officers to drum up business. And they had a grand opening, and it's creating new jobs for the community. And everyone's excited about this new flavor of pizza. Like, that's kind of an example of that. But it is producing cash flow, which is a membership. So I guess it's just kind of like your intention behind it. If that is that kind of what it's about?
Yeah, my intention is constantly adding the highest value to community. So your instrument is real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal does not change because you are still, your mindset is what would add the highest value to the community.
Right.
Now,
To you own and your organization too, and I mean, highest value means all encompassing, right? So what the impact on the environment, the impact on the community, the impact on your own team,
yes,
the impact on, that whole thing is part of it.
it
So
cannot subtract value anywhere.
Right. And then if you have investors, the highest value for them would be giving them the highest return on their money, which is higher cash flow as well. So,
but if
yeah,
but I think the big picture, looking at all of it, says, what is that tenant then, or what is the tenant that enhances the community, that enhances their operation, that will make the most money for the investors. It is finding all of those pieces and parts that fit in together. Because the easy way out, would be to say, okay, there's a adult bookstore that wants to come in that'll pay a premium amount, okay, but that'll satisfy the investors if they don't even know who the money is coming from. But obviously, it doesn't help the community. It doesn't help the other tenants in the center. It doesn't make you feel good when you go to bed at night. So, it has to click at all levels, right? It has to be able to add the highest value across the board.
So your tenant should increase the value of the community. So suddenly, if you are bringing a tenant, which is basically, as Ray talked about, reduces the value, you also reducing the value of the neighborhood.
Right.
So you're not adding value.
But theoretically, it should all work together then. I mean,
Yeah.
the best, right? I mean, that's the win-win. That's what creates the big wins. When everything is together.
Yeah, it's like when in your human body, you have heart, you have lungs, you have liver, you have kidneys, you have all these organs. So when you take the food, the first organ you satisfy is a taste organ. If you are only focused on satisfying the taste organ, other organs may fall sick. So similarly, if you are only fulfilling the investment of your people who have invested in, and they're making money, but your society is becoming sick as a consequence, it doesn't have the lasting capability.
I have to tell you that what you just said is so brilliant. I think we all feel fortunate to be on this. The other thing that I think is so important is Kim's point about trust. And what you were just talking about, Ray, if you put the bookstore in, it devalues trust. And I think regardless of the business, regardless of the situation, it can go from medicine to real estate. The trust has to be there for any of these things to succeed. And people know when you can't be trusted. They know when things aren't honorable or honest. And I think that's what comes through is trust underlays all of these things that we're talking about.
Trust comes from the fact that you see another person as exactly you. The same divine power enlivens him. So would you cheat your own spouse, your own son, your own daughter, your own family because they are yours now? Or would you cheat yourself? You will never cheat yourself. So it is when you begin to see others as part of you, automatically the incentive to be trustworthy is higher.
So when my parents would say, treat others the way you would like to be treated, then in a sense, that's the oneness that you're speaking of.
Yeah. Yeah. To understand the reason why you want to be treated like, because we are not the human body. We are the power which enlivens the human body. We are the current which is present in each light bulb. So when you are serving that divinity present in everyone, so that is what is spirituality, that is what is all that goodness, that is what is honesty, that is what is trustworthiness, that is what is life. So all that is explained through one understanding of who you are.
The commercial, that phrase you just used, Ratanjit and I have talked about that. I don't know if it's on the radio or just in talking, because I was taught that same thing: treat others the way you want to be treated, and that's the golden rule. It's accepted out there all over. But the difference with Ratanjit's interpretation of it that he taught me is that when you use that, when you say that, and when you think that, automatically there's an expectation on our part. Okay, well, I've treated you that way, so you should treat me well. To monetize it. I gave you a gift, and I know I spent $50 on it. So when it was time for you to give me a gift, you only gave me a $5 gift. I mean, there's kind of an expectation that goes with that. Then treat others the way you want to be treated, and now we suddenly start judging or evaluating it. And so the way that I've tried to modify, and I'm not always successful at it, is treat them the way I want to be treated, irrelevant of how they treat me. Have no expectation that I'm going to get that back, because it doesn't really matter. I'm doing it because it's the right thing, not because they're going to treat me that same way.
Expectation comes from the absence of oneness. So
Yeah.
in this human body, which is we consider as one, so when you have an itch on your nose, your hand comes and relieves it, right? So when you have the itch on your hand, do you expect your nose to come and relieve the itch? It is ridiculous, right? So in oneness, you do good to somebody, and somebody else is going to do good to you, not the same person.
I guess the way that I'm making sense of it is, as you talked about, that there's two forces, the human body force, and then what I'm interpreting is like the divine, you said the divine force. So I see myself as a divine force, and I see them as a divine force. And with that perspective, you naturally want to show love or honesty.
Absolutely.
Or sincerity.
Yes.
But if I'm coming in from my ego force and their ego force, then I'm going to come in with greed or dishonesty, try to take advantage because I want to be superior. So it's all about your paradigm, really.
Absolutely.
Is I'm the divine force. I look in your eyes. I see God's light in you, and we're divine forces in harmony together.
Yes.
And if they are coming in from their ego and they don't treat me that way, I think Jesus talks about just turning the other cheek if they treat you that way, that kind of stuff. I unfortunately need to say goodbye, but I just want to show my gratitude because I feel like I finally found my spiritual community. I haven't found something like this before. So I'm just very grateful that Ray invited me to join, and for everyone who's on this call. So thank you so much.
You added
Thank you,
value
Liz.
to this group.
Yes, you
Oh,
absolutely.
I'm so grateful. Thank
Yeah.
you. So I look forward to continuing the conversation. I've been looking for a
Yes.
spiritual community, and I just feel very grateful that it came. So thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you to all of you. Great to have you part of this. to all of you that are here, thank you. We really have
Thank you.
enjoyed you. And as Ratanjit said, you really enhance our program and give us direction. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you're invited every week.
Right.
I
Beautiful.
think, okay. All right.
Have
Have
a great
weekend. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
guys.
much. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Enjoy.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Ratanjit.
Bye-bye.